Okay, so today we're going to have to build a sort of instruction manual, or maybe a quick reference card, might be the better way of describing it, for Adobe Animate. So we're just going to go through particularly that toolbar and come up with some basic overview instructions of how to use each of those tools. So if you're lost with any of the tools as you go through, obviously there's that clip we had last time that we watched, the YouTube clip, which is saved to Classroom. You can ask myself, or you can Google or just have a play on Animate to see what the tools do. So I've started by using heading 1 in your IST notebook, and I've given it today's date, and inside that Unit 1 Authoring and Multimedia, I've created a new title, Adobe Animate CC Instructions. So the first thing I want to do is, to make the instructions nice and simple, I'm going to take little shots from the screen. Now the way to do that, if you've not done that before, if you have the Cortana button there, you can just go in there and press SNI and it'll bring up Snipping Tool, which is what we're going to use. But if you don't have access to that button, if we're using the Start menu, we can go in here, scroll down to W for Windows, Windows Accessories, and there is our friend the Snipping Tool ready to use. So now if we go into Animate and we bring that Snipping Tool up again, we can choose to have a new snip. We just select, I'm going to select these first 5 buttons here. The sheet you're going to get is only going to ask you to talk about 2 or 3 of those buttons. I think talking about any more than about 4 will be difficult. So yeah, try and keep it to sort of 4 buttons each snip, and then that way you've got room to write around it. So once I've got that snipped, I just right mouse click on it, select copy, and then I can get rid of that, and I can go back into my Google Doc, and I'm just going to choose a spot here under that heading, and I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to hit paste. That's going to bring up the little icon. Now you'll see this red and white bar down the side here. That's just to do with the screencasting program I'm using, so when you do this you won't have that red and white bar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and I'm going to choose break text. What that allows me to do is to pick up the object and drag it around and move it to where I want to move it. So you'll see there's a nice little red line there when I'm in the center of the page, and that's where I'd like to be, so I'm going to drop it there. Now the next thing I want to do, rather than writing around it, I think it'd be nicer if I used a text box. So I'm going to go Insert Drawing. Now this will only work if you've got the cursor there blinking. So if I choose this picture and go to Insert, all of a sudden I can't go to Drawing. But if I go back to having the cursor there, the drawing object comes up. So I click on Drawing, and it brings up this extra little window. And up here, we've got this option of having a text box. So I'm going to click on that text box. I'm going to create a little box. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I want a border on this box. I think it'll look nicer. So I might go and select a 2-point border. So I can change the color, I can change the style, but this middle one here changes whether or not it has a border. So it has a border there now. So if I double click on there, I can write what I want to do. So I might say something like, that's the basic selection tool. I might just add a little something else. I might say single click on object equals the fill. And I don't need a capital there, double click equals fill and stroke. So I know that when I use that, and if single click on an object, I'll get the fill. If I double click, I'll get the stroke. So I'll just size this text box now to what fits for where I want it, for what I want it to look like. And I'm just going to save and close. And there's my little thing. Once again, I'm going to have to choose to break text so that I can move it around as I wish. So I bring up the cursor, I can maybe align it with the left-hand margin there. And there we go, I've got that in there. Now, of course, the problem with that is it doesn't really tell me too much. What I might need to do is now, with the cursor highlighted, not one of these 2 objects, I'll go back into Insert and choose Drawing. But I want to create an arrow. So here I've got the option to choose arrows. So it'll choose an arrow from where you start to where you end up. So the arrow head will face that way. So my line weight on this, I might make it a little bit bigger. So I've got a nice little arrow there. Now size doesn't matter, but sort of direction does, is more important. So as long as I can make that work, and I'll show you what I mean on the next page. So if I hit save and close, there's my arrow. Now I still, oops, too fast. I have to choose to break text again. That'll allow me to move it around. And I want it to point to that box, so that's good. Problem is it doesn't point to the box that I'm talking about. But if I just do that until it's red there, bam, and I might even go just slightly more if I can. I think maybe it would look better if I made the border of that text box the same weight as the border of the arrow. But you can see it's very clear though, as much as it's a little bit clunky, it's very clear that that box relates to that button. Now, I can save myself a bit of time, not so much with the arrows, but with the text boxes. Rather than having to create a new text box, I might just click on that one, right mouse click, hit copy. Then I'll hit paste, and a new text box comes up, which is exactly the same. The difference here is because it's a copy of this box, it already is able to break text. So I can move it wherever I want it, and I can start writing. By double clicking on it, I can, dearie me, I can get in there and actually just start writing, and that just gets my preferences from before. So I would start writing about whatever that box is, and as I do that, that's going to come back there. And obviously I can then create an arrow and bring it across. So the main things to remember though is using that snipping tool and the process for creating the little text boxes within the document.